first time in a long time, progressives have some leverage in Congress. And so AOC explained why she plans on voting against the bipartisan infrastructure bill unless she gets the passage of the reconciliation bill. Let's watch.
I also want to really thank people at home for supporting House Democrats who do not accept corporate PAC and lobbyist money. And those sorts of Democrats are not just progressive, they're not just conservative, they really transcend a lot of party ideology, but they're a recent phenomenon and that have really been surging since 2016 and 2018. And I really do believe that that is what is changing the dynamic that we're seeing in Washington today, where that stranglehold that lobbyists have traditionally had over Washington, that still very much do in a lot of sectors, is starting to loosen. Because everyday American voters and everyday people at home are starting to support members of Congress and send members to Congress that don't just do what lobbyists tell them to do, but say, we're gonna make tough decisions. This is a moment of heartburn, but I want to be clear that not voting for this tomorrow is not a permanent decision. We can always reconsider it when the time is right.
And the time would be right as soon as the budget reconciliation bill passes. That's when progressives would agree to voting for the bipartisan infrastructure bill, aka the corporate handout bill, just like they had promised and negotiated on previously. So what I love is that she talks about the distinction between the corporate Democrats who abide by the demands coming from their corporate donors versus progressives like AOC, Cori Bush, Pramila Jayapal, all these progressives who actually want to represent the best interests of their constituents because they're not corrupted with corporate cash.
Okay, look, we have tons of progressives on the show. We have tons of progressive organizations. We've tried to help everyone that's in the progressive community. And most of all, you guys helped start Just Democrats by doing exactly what AOC is talking about there. Gave $2.5 million in the 2018 cycle and led to these incredibly important victories. I'm gonna take a piece of credit here, if I don't care if you mind or don't mind actually. I remember the call when the four Just Democrats co-founders, me, Kyle Kulinski, Zach Exley, and Sharkat Chakrabarti discussed the no corporate PAC rule. When I suggested it, we did, and we fought for it, and we agreed, and we instituted that rule. I thought it would make a giant difference. I told you guys on the air that it would make a giant difference because it would free the legislators. And here they are. And here's AOC on national television telling you, we're free. And so we don't have to do what the lobbyists say. And when you don't have to do what the lobbyists say, all of a sudden you actually represent the voters. And my God, it's made all the difference in the world. And I want to thank all of you guys for having faith that that plan was gonna work. And here it is working. And so the next time we ask you guys, hey, maybe you support these candidates or these organizations or these groups, remember that it's already worked. And if we keep going forward, listen to AOC, not just helping AOCs of the world, but the next set, the next Justice Democrats, Odessa Kelly in Tennessee, Jessica Cisneros in Texas, Morgan Harper in Ohio, et cetera, right? Next set of progressives. So look at that, if you double their numbers, you'll double their power. So let's keep doubling our power and we're gonna win this thing. And finally, we have progressive legislators on TV saying, it's the corruption, stupid. And so now it's affecting the corporate media and they're beginning to ask about the corporate donors. Nina Turner, now at TYT, but was on CNN, said, hey, you know what? It's their owner donors because they own them. And that's really true.
So to that point, you go to Chris Cuomo's show and he had some words for Manchin and Sinema during his show last night. We've got two clips to share with you. Let's go to the first one.
Sinema and Manchin say that they won't support the price tag as is. Okay, so give another number. I think there is another question though that the senator is gonna have to answer at some point. Is this just about the price or who would be paying it? Is Senator Sinema more concerned about her big pharma friends and corporate lobbyists that fill her coffers than her regular constituents? I think that's a real question. She gets a lot of money from big pharma. They don't like what you're doing with prescription drugs. She gets a lot of money from big money. They don't like that you want to raise the corporate taxes. So she doesn't like the funding mechanisms Therefore, she can't go for the bill.
So before we get to the second Cuomo video, I want to give you guys some context in case you've missed some previous episodes of the show where I detailed just where the corruption's coming from. All right, so let's start with Joe Manchin. This is from Jonathan Larson, our reporter here at TYT. He does TYT Investigates, did an excellent job with this particular story and more. He reported earlier that AA property is reportedly 50% controlled by Manchin and is an investor in Emerald Coast Realty, which owns a La Quinta Hotel in Elkview, West Virginia. The national average salary for several La Quinta positions is well below $15 an hour. If Manchin's $11 an hour federal minimum wage proposal were to win out, La Quinta Hotel housekeepers, for instance, would get an average raise of just 8 cents an hour nationwide. Now think about it. If Manchin has a personal stake in a business where he could lose profits if they increase the wages of its workers, you think he's gonna vote for a $15 an hour minimum wage? I mean, obviously that personal financial interest is gonna have a huge impact on the way he votes on legislation, and to be sure, he was against the $15 an hour minimum wage. Also, according to his most recent financial disclosure, Manchin gained $492,000 last year due to his non-public shares in a coal company called EnerSystems, which records show is a contractor for a power plant in the state's north that burns waste coal. And as you guys know, his salary as a senator is far less at $174,000. And then when you go to Cenk, Cuomo rightly mentioned that she is corrupted by pharmaceutical companies, and he's absolutely right about that. Kyrsten Sinema has received over $750,000 from Big Pharma. Her office is led by a former lobbyist whose firm worked on behalf of pharmaceutical companies, and now she's trying to tank a bill to lower drug prices. This is the power of big money, folks. And Cuomo, luckily, continued talking about that. Let's take a look at the second clip.
So now is the question, who? Who is holding it up? Gotta be the progressives, right? They keep saying they won't vote on the bill tomorrow. I argue to you, no. The progressives are actually in line with President Biden. These numbers are his numbers. These wants are his wants, and they're all wildly popular with you on both bills. And another reason, I don't think you can put this on them. They keep asking the moderates in the House and the two key senators, Manchin and Sinema, to negotiate. Tell us what you like, tell us what you don't like, give us a number. They have gotten none of those from the senators or in the House as far as we know, certainly with the senators. So much so that some are now referring to the two senators, Manchin and Sinema, as Manchinema. I say they may soon be known as Manchinema because they are really sticking it to their party.
So Cenk, thoughts?
Look at that. We told you, hey, you know what? Chris Cuomo, an interesting guy, an open-minded guy. And here he is, one of the rare anchors on television, calling out the donor money. And now correctly assessing, it's not the progressives' fault. It's actually, and by the way, you have progressives on, and maybe even if it's years later, it affects you a little bit like, hey, maybe we should be fair to progressives. And so he's a very rare anchor on cable news, being accurate. It's not just about siding with progressives, there's no question about it. Almost the entire Democratic Party agrees except for Manchin and Sinema, and they're the ones holding up, there's no question. And they won't even say the number, they won't say what they're gonna cut. So that is the most accurate report on cable news. The tide has changed. And it is an amazing day in America. This is just the beginning. We won't win on everything. And I'm not even sure we're gonna win on this yet, right? But my God, the momentum is on our side. If you'd asked me a little while back, do you think you're gonna get that $3.5 trillion bill? I would have said probably no, but as you saw us talk about it, we didn't say no way. We were like, this is interesting, right? We're not sure, but normally it would be a no, right? And now all of a sudden, I got it at a yes. It's not gonna come in at $3.5 trillion, but I once said 2.1 trillion, maybe it'll be even higher than that. I think they're gonna pass the bill. I think this is too much media pressure on Manchin and Sinema. And so that's the only thing they'll buckle to.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.